Please. Bonjour à tout le monde. May I ask everybody to take his or her place, please? We are going to start. Excellencies, dear delegates, may I ask you to take your seat, please?
English. I think this is if you want to speak.
May I ask the people near the door to make silence, please? We are going to start the forum. I see everybody's sitting. Thank you very much. I understand we have a very short video and then we will start the ceremony. Thank you very much. I would like to officially open the works of this forum. Before, let me say, Morocco Mabruk, Portugal Mabruk. They are two PAM countries, you understand. And it is honor and pleasure for me to be given this role to facilitate the high-level opening ceremony of the first economic forum of PAM in such a delicate period for our region. And without any further delay, I would like to give the floor to His Excellency Honorable Enam Mayara, the Speaker of the House of Councillors of the Kingdom of Morocco, President of the Association of Senate, Shura, and the equivalent council in Africa and the Arab world. Excellency, the floor is yours.
In the name of God, most gracious, most merciful, may peace and blessings be upon the Prophet, his kith and kin, Honorable Minister of Relations with Parliament, and representing the head of the government, Mr. Aziz Akhanouch, Mr. Deputy Speaker of the House of Representatives, distinguished President of PAM, distinguished Speaker of the Pan-African Parliament, distinguished Speaker of the Arab Parliament, distinguished representatives of the parliaments in the United Arab Emirates, distinguished President Speaker of the Saudi Parliament, and distinguished President of the representative of the CJM, distinguished representative of the Director General of UNIDO, distinguished Secretaries General of the ministries and directors, distinguished experts, honorable guests, dear colleagues, distinguished ladies and gentlemen. Allow me, first of all, and as we live a very interesting and happy, joyful event, that is the success of the Moroccan team and its move into the quarterfinals of the World Cup held in Qatar. I would like to congratulate our national team on this very big achievement, and this is also part of the economic and social development efforts made in Morocco. We're very happy to host you here in Morocco to take part in the Constitutive session of the Marrakesh Economic Parliamentary Forum for the Euro-Mediterranean region and Gulf. This is a historic event that will contribute to closer cooperation between the two regions and build bridges, economic bridges and social bridges between the two parts of the Mediterranean to address the challenges that exist with a new approach based on efficiency and co-development for the benefit of our countries. And the House of Councillors is honored to host this constitutive session, given the firm belief in the importance of the strategic partnership between the two sides of the Mediterranean and the Gulf, and also the endeavors of the Kingdom of Morocco under the leadership of His Majesty King Mohammed VI. May God be with him to ensure the success of such a performance, and also to make sure that we achieve further developments and progress. I'm sure that this forum will make it possible to take stock of the chance of the opportunities and of the achievements made, and it will also open up prospects for economic complementarity and integration between our countries. Distinguished speakers and presidents, dear colleagues, this session is being held at a geopolitical context that includes a number of developments and new developments, especially the war between Russia and Ukraine, that will probably lead to a reconfiguration of the map, and that has also an impact on the supply channels and supply routes, and also the impact on the creation of wealth. We are ushering in a new era that will have an impact on the security situation, global security situation, and we look forward to coming up with measures to promote peace and stability. And we, as members of Parliament, have a responsibility to make sure that we build bridges and for a prosperous future, to make sure also that we live up to the economic, and we enhance and promote the economic and social rights of our people, and also to promote cooperation, international cooperation mechanisms, to make sure that the international relations are based on mutual respect and on the integrity and security of our countries. Ladies and gentlemen, a number of international reports show that the relationship between the two sides of the Mediterranean and the Gulf still has a lot to achieve, because the trade does not exceed $150 billion, but it seems to me that there is potential for more than $230 billion if we adopt innovative approaches that make it possible to have a pragmatic management of our relations, and that would lead to greater flow of funds and investments. We have to think about launching a mechanism for political dialogue in order to give a new breath to the Barcelona process, and to also contribute to the negotiations and to promote the relations between Europe and Gulf and the Mediterranean region, to make sure that the southern part of, or the southern shore of the Mediterranean can also benefit from the prospects. We can also contribute to revisiting the WTO and to make sure that we at governmental and multilateral level work together to make sure that this reform would provide an historical opportunity to reconsider the World Trade Organization mechanisms, to innovate its proceedings as well as its methodology. In order to ensure the success of these measures, we have to take a number of technical measures and logistical measures, especially to think about an investment fund for the reform that would provide assistance with the logistical developments and come up with a common map, especially that integrates the Mediterranean port in Morocco and the port in Genoa, and then see how we can interact. And we have also to see whether we can come up with value chains that involve all the regions involved in order to contribute to a greater exchange of best practices, and especially in the new jobs that are related to the artificial intelligence, and also to encourage continuous learning and also space-related technology. We are convinced that a fruitful development of our relations and creating the suitable legislative framework would create suitable opportunities for greater cooperation. And the Mediterranean was in the past a space for mutual fruitful interaction, and I'm sure that we can make sure that this should help us also to overcome the problem and the crises that we have been facing recently, and to enhance the position of this region in the world, and also to provide jobs and opportunities for all in the region. The Kingdom of Morocco is ready and willing to contribute to the promotion of partnership between the various different departments concerned, and also to cooperate with the various to promote the human relations, and also to bring our views closer to one another. Allow me to remind you of the speech of His Majesty King Mohammed VI at the European Summit, during which His Majesty insisted on the readiness of the Kingdom of Morocco to be fully engaged in any dynamic action that is aimed at promoting Arab-European dialogue and make it a full-fledged cooperation. And this will be beneficial to the peoples of the two shores of the Mediterranean and Europe. End of quote of His Majesty the King. Ladies and gentlemen, the economy alone cannot solve all of the problems and bring our views together, but we have to pool efforts in order to address the perils that's including the terrorist perils that exist in our geostrategic region. We have the means to address our differences in a pragmatic way in order to overcome our problems and address our needs. And the aim is to promote fraternity and closer bonds between us, and also benefit from the cultural heritage that we have in common, and develop new innovative approaches in an environment that is marked by respect, sincerity, clarity, and ambition, because what unites us is more than what separates us. Now is the time to overcome all hurdles to ensure shared prosperity and address all the challenges faced. We look forward to the institutional development of this forum, so that we can think together bring our minds together to address together the issues that we're facing, and also benefit and also serve our common interests, and provide it with the necessary resources, provide the forum, that is, with the necessary resources, so that it can be an institutional platform that that comes up with good ideas and projects, and also that accompanies public policies and promotes best practices to defend a model, an economic model that is beneficial to all, and that involves the institutional, financial, and legislative aspects, in addition to promoting the action of the funds, investment funds, especially in the Euro-Mediterranean region. I thank you again, and I welcome two delegations from Latin America and a delegation from Uruguay. They are our guests of honor at this forum session. And with the same warmth, I would like to welcome the head of the Senate of Colombia, who is with us at this opening session. And I think that we, as members of parliament, is to create these bridges between us, because this makes it possible to promote cooperation between these institutions that represent our peoples. Thank you so much for this quantitative and qualitative participation in this forum. Thank you very much.
Un grand merci, Monsieur le Président. Un grand merci. Maintenant, j'ai le plaisir d'inviter au podium.
I would like to invite to the podium His Excellency Mr. Mustafa Baitaz, Minister Delegate to the Head of Government in charge of relations with Parliament and government spokesman on behalf of the Head of the Moroccan government, His Excellency Aziz Akhanouch. Thank you.
Mr. Chairman of the Council, councillors, President, Chair of the European African Union, of the Arab Parliamentaries, Excellencies, members of parliaments from the Gulf and the Mediterranean, ladies and gentlemen, Excellencies. I am very happy to participate today in this meeting related to economic and parliamentary relations in the Gulf and the Mediterranean. It is an initiative that will be an opportunity to evaluate international situation and find the best solutions to face up to what the world is facing, that are pushing for more uncertainty. And let me welcome you, Excellencies, on the land of the Kingdom of Morocco, rich in its variance, in its African roots and its Arab extensions and geographical situation in the Mediterranean. The Kingdom of Morocco, under the leadership of His Majesty King Mohammed VI, takes part in the peace in this region and in solving the problems of this region. It is an occasion also to congratulate you for this initiative that brings together the Gulf and the Mediterranean countries, especially that this session is going to be the starting point for action for the parliaments of this region that from the very start had decided to support action of support between parties and set bridges between the Mediterranean and the Gulf states. It is an initiative that will be a forum for dialogue and exchange of views in times that are complex, and that will be a real alternative for production of solutions and ideas in a way that are free from historical, cultural, economic perspectives that have unfortunately been the characteristic of the past until now. Ladies and gentlemen, excellencies, the changes in the world situation with all the crises have imposed finding solutions that are good for all between our forums in order to navigate in the crisis that humanity is facing with all the gravity and seriousness for the rest of humanity. At a time when we barely left the crisis produced by COVID-19 with its complex problems, new crises have set up to push us towards finding more solutions, given that we have the will, we have the expertise, and we have the what it takes to find the right solutions. But it is necessary to think in a different way, far away from egoism towards large humanity for the best human results. And through partnerships in energy and free from multi-party systems. Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, today we have more than ever before the necessity to set up safety nets in order to find the rightful solutions to our problems, instead of each country trying to find solutions for its own problems, which is not always possible. We have a necessity to think collectively and set up strategies based on opportunities, operating on cooperation between the Gulf and Mediterranean states, with all the energies allowed by Africa and the common interest of all, as has always been in the line by our leader, King Mohammed VI, ever since he took responsibilities of this kingdom. And what has come in the letter he has addressed to the Euro-Mediterranean meeting in July 2000, when he said, His Majesty said, it has become clear that the isolation and self-sufficiency are over, and that it is now necessary to open up and exchange not only goods and services, but also interests, and use better quality and more advanced ways of thinking. Ladies and gentlemen, excellencies, this forum is very important, starting off with these principles will be useful in launching initiatives to solve the problems that we have to face, especially relating to economy, societies, and environment, whether in Africa, the Middle East, the Gulf, and the Mediterranean, in order to be able to face the future problems. We have to think about the future of future generations. and that makes it necessary to take into account their interests in saving environment and resources necessary for their stability in the future. This is important for collective thinking so as to find solutions for energy, especially with renewables and clean energies, which will be able to save our natural environment and reduce hazards in natural environments. Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, I renew our sincere welcome in your country, Morocco, and I hope you spend delightful time with us, and I wish you success in this forum. Thank you very much.
I wish to thank Minister Baitas for the message from the government of Morocco to our forum. And now I have the pleasure to welcome a keynote address by His Excellency Mr. Rashid Talbi El Alami, Speaker of the House of Representatives of the Kingdom of Morocco, address which is delivered by His Excellency Mohammed Sabari, First Vice Speaker.
In the name of God, most gracious, most merciful, may peace and blessings be upon the Prophet, his kith and kin, distinguished minister delegate in charge of relations with parliaments, distinguished Speaker of the House of Representatives, Honorable Speaker of the Parliament of the Euro-Mediterranean Parliament, distinguished Speaker of the Pan-African Parliament, distinguished Speaker of the Arab Parliament, the Speaker of the UAE Parliament, distinguished Head of the Shura Council in Saudi Arabia, distinguished speakers, Honorable Directors General of international organizations, all titles and considered and observed. I would like to welcome you to this major forum, high-level forum, which is being held by the House of Councillors of the Kingdom of Morocco and the Mediterranean Parliament. This provides an opportunity to members of parliament and representatives of governments, as well as economic actors and leaders of international economic organizations, international and regional economic organizations, to address issues that are of a topical nature, especially in the international and regional context that we are experiencing and the vulnerability that they impose. I would like to commend the choice of the topics of this constitutive forum, which are interrelated, and they reflect the issues as well as the concerns that the Arab regions and the Euro-Mediterranean region are facing. These are challenges, chronic challenges, that are growing and that create and generate further crises. Therefore, there are historical problems that are involved as well. The Parliament, the European Parliament, is a product of the previous institution that existed and in which the Parliament of the Kingdom of Morocco was the founder in 2005. It started in 1992 as a mechanism for the joint action of the Malaga Conference in the Mediterranean, and the aim then was to address three major challenges and to come up with parliamentary answers to them: political and security cooperation to achieve stability, achieve economic cooperation through co-developments, and also to build partnerships, and lastly, the cooperation between different civilizations. So years after that parliamentary reflection started, we came up with an institutional regional forum, and we're facing the same problems, same challenges, and the same critical and complex situations. The Mediterranean region and the countries concerned witness a number of destructive internal strife that lead millions of people to flee and to go to other countries with all that this involves in terms of human suffering. As we know, the Mediterranean region is one of the geographical regions in which there are major disparities in terms of wealth and in terms of the benefits of development. It is also the region that has where the weapons are stockpiled and where there is illegal migration that causes a lot of problems and dramas, and therefore the region is also affected by climate change and the impact it has, such as the droughts, as well as the major pressure on water and other marine resources. In addition to all this, we are paying the price of the closed borders between some countries, and that has an impact on the flow of trade. And this does not, including the high cost of energy, and all that does not contribute to the economic takeoff that was planned in more than one country. And in addition to that, there is a problem with food security, and that should be a major concern. Ladies and gentlemen, your conference today is an opportunity and also a platform to come up with a common vision to address peace and security, shared peace and security in the countries of the Arab region and Euro-Mediterranean region. This is a major project that should be supported by a number of factors, given the wealth and the resources that exist in the regions concerned. And there is great potential for economic complementarity, since the countries of the Gulf have energy resources, tremendous energy resources, and we're happy that our brothers and sisters in this region have used these resources to introduce major reforms and achieve a lot of programs in their countries. And there is also great potential for renewable energy in the Gulf as well as in the southern and eastern parts of the Mediterranean. We are very proud of what has been achieved in Morocco under the stewardship of His Majesty the King, who is overseeing a major agricultural policy that promotes the exports of the country and that also contributes to industrial cooperation. And suffice it to say that the Kingdom of Morocco is now producing more than 700,000 cars every year, which is more than one car a minute. We have also the high technological skills and the developed industries. We have also an infrastructure for maritime and air transport that are all. This is also part of the cooperation and strategic interaction between the two shores of the Mediterranean. Of course, there are major markets that are involved with hundreds of millions of consumers in other countries, and we are opening up to those as well. The economic integration and complementarity calls for political will and the involvement of the private sector. We also have to do away with the stereotypes that still exist and to respect the specificities of each country as well as the cultural and civilizational identity. We have also to leverage technology and also ensure the transfer of technology between the shores of the Mediterranean and the Gulf and to ensure that we have the necessary resources and the necessary complementarities between our policies. We have to work and also engage in advocacy in order to free the region from the causes of conflicts and crises. There can be no development without social stability and peace. We need strong countries to achieve development, and economic development calls for development and social cohesion, as well as integration and also tackling all forms of vulnerability. We all know the legitimate ambitions are growing in this digital era and in this era which is characterized by the social media. I don't need to go into details as far as the use that terrorist groups are making of the instability that exists in some regions, and they promote hate speech and destructive policies in order to achieve their objectives that is inconsistent with the need for stability, serenity, and peace. We all agree that our peoples in the region are tired of the wars and of the failure to settle disputes. They look forward to a shared prosperity. And it goes without saying also that if we do not respect the sovereignty and territorial integrity of the states, there can be no suitable conditions for investment and good trading relations and diplomatic and cultural exchanges between different countries. On another level, part of the Mediterranean region is in Africa, the continent that has great potential for development and progress, continents that we have to keep in mind in all of the international policies. This is the continent of the future. It deserves economic justice and fairness. It deserves a rehabilitation at cultural level. Africa also needs partnerships and investments. And above all, it needs to be better known by the world and in a deeper way. It deserves to be known for its potential, for the role it can play in building the future. And I would like to avail this opportunity in which we have representatives of different international economic organizations that it is not moral or morally acceptable that parts of the world, the countries of the world, benefit from the resources that are conducive to wealth, whereas Africa is kept on the sidelines, whereas Africa is the continent that provides the raw materials that are absolutely indispensable for a number of industries and technological transformations in the world. The World Trade Organization here in Marrakesh, in the Kingdom of Morocco, held in 1994 the GATT conference. And this agreement led to a long process of negotiations in order to achieve international stability. However, the situation in Africa questions the decision makers on the needs of Africa. And Africa has a debt that has to be settled, and therefore the region of the Gulf and the Mediterranean space have to work together and to achieve complementarity with the African continent. Thank you very much for your kind attention.
Thank you very much, Mr. President. Now I inform that there is just a minor change in the program, and I will have the pleasure to give the floor to His Excellency Senator Chief Fortune Zefania Charumbira, President of the Pan-African Parliament, as he has to catch a flight. President, please.
Thank you very much. The Director and Chair of the proceedings. May I first recognize the convener of this gathering, the President of the Parliamentary Assembly of the Mediterranean, but also jointly doing so and led by the President of the House, the Senate of Morocco, His Excellency Mayara, with us. May I salute the Minister who has just given us a speech, the Bureau of the Parliamentary Assembly of the Mediterranean, honorable speakers of national and regional parliaments here present, members of the Parliamentary Assembly of the Mediterranean, representatives of international organizations, representatives of the academia, civil society, distinguished invited guests, ladies and gentlemen. I should start by saying thank you to Morocco for making Africa proud yesterday by winning I stand here to represent the Pan-African Parliament, the Parliament of the continent of Africa. And we were at a risk by yesterday. If Morocco had lost, Africa would be basically deleted from the current competitions. So you did us proud. We as Africa, we are still in the competition. Once more, thank you very much. I thank from my deepest of my heart the President of the Parliamentary Assembly of the Mediterranean and the President of Senate, Mayara, for extending an invitation to Pan-African Parliament to be here this morning. This is the first gathering of its kind organized by the Parliamentary Assembly of the Mediterranean. And the Pan-African Parliament will be counted as one of those that attended the very first gathering. So we are very, very grateful for that invitation. The invitation says Euro-Mediterranean, the Gulf, and of course, always don't forget, and Africa. When you say the Gulf, the Mediterranean, you are talking about Africa also. And I want to inform this gathering that the Pan-African Parliament has a very special relationship with the Parliament Assembly of the Mediterranean. Some of you may know that on 23 February 2017, the Pan-African Parliament and the Parliamentary Assembly of the Mediterranean signed an MOU, a Memorandum of Understanding. A very detailed one. So we have a very close relationship which has been reduced to writing. And if you look at the mandate of the Mediterranean Assembly and the mandate of PAM as contained in the protocols of the African Union, we are basically, we exist for the same purpose. And it makes a lot of sense that we work together to create a lot of synergies and then implement our programs. Some of the issues that are common to both of us which makes it an imperative for me to stand here and address this forum, are that we are both working on food security issues, issues of energy security, climate.
Trabajamos todos en materia de seguridad alimenticia y evidentemente las desigualdades y los problemas ligados al transporte marítimo necesitan acciones comunes. Somos una sola y única familia, somos una sola y única institución y por lo tanto tenemos que consultarnos, que trabajar juntos, manos a mano, a pesar de las diferencias. Tenemos denominadores comunes. Somos la voz de nuestros pueblos. Representamos las aspiraciones de nuestros pueblos. Representamos aspiraciones que deben de ser respetadas y cumplidas. Afrontamos los mismos problemas. Tenemos esta plataforma que nos permite escuchar y alzar la voz de nuestros pueblos. Los gobiernos tienen un papel y los pueblos deben alzar su voz. Y consideramos que se trata de nuestra tarea, en nuestra misión principal. Queremos implicarnos en ese proceso de desarrollo y mejorar la calidad de vida de nuestros pueblos y por lo tanto se trata del mismo mandato. Necesitamos promover primero la movilidad y los intercambios, lo que forma parte de nuestros objetivos. En África, recientemente, nos hemos dado cuenta de un aspecto muy importante. Y hablo aquí de lo que llamamos comúnmente la zona de libre comercio o la zona continental de libre comercio a nivel de África. Esta zona permitirá el incremento de los intercambios, nos permitirá organizarnos de manera mejor y seremos los interlocutores así de los demás agrupamientos regionales del mundo. En el espacio euromediterráneo existen grandes oportunidades y el proceso de intercambio debe beneficiar igualmente a África. Los intercambios comerciales desempeñan un papel importantísimo. Compartimos un presente y un futuro común y debemos aprovechar estas oportunidades. Debemos igualmente afrontar los retos, al igual que el calentamiento global y el cambio climático. Tenemos igualmente que pensar en la juventud, ya que se trata de un pilar fundamental de nuestras sociedades. El Parlamento panafricano y la Asamblea Parlamentaria del Mediterráneo deben juntos colaborar y trabajar mano a mano, sirviendo así los intereses de nuestros pueblos. Esta asamblea constituye una de las etapas necesarias para que nuestras dos instituciones puedan trabajar juntas. Este foro económico constituye un punto de partida para una serie de iniciativas y proyectos y programas cuyo cometido es hacer de África un continente pionero y pueda avanzar. Tenemos retos y desafíos comunes en materia de seguridad y en materia de mantenimiento de la paz. Existen conflictos y tensiones en el mundo entero y sobre todo en nuestra región, y la Asamblea Parlamentaria del Mediterráneo debe desempeñar un papel en todas estas cuestiones y debe aportar su apoyo a las causas justas. La última reunión celebrada en Roma, la conferencia que contó con la participación de varios actores, tuvo como cometido buscar una solución justa y duradera para promover la paz en el mundo, y hemos concluido que existe un enfoque importante que debe de ser utilizado para afrontar estos retos. Debemos adoptar un enfoque inclusivo en que participan todos los actores, gobiernos, sociedad civil, sector privado y el resto de los actores, y el objetivo es encontrar las soluciones a los problemas que estamos afrontando. Es importante igualmente que África forma parte de este foro y participa en esta dinámica. Nuestros parlamentos tienen un papel importante y debemos tomar en cuenta las verdaderas problemáticas que nos interpelan. Tal como ustedes saben, no existen límites ni fronteras para la coordinación y la cooperación, y nos comprometemos a colaborar con ustedes conforme a este convenio de asociación. Y quisiera aprovechar esta ocasión para agradecer a Marruecos, para agradecer al ministro que tomó la palabra en nombre del gobierno marroquí, en nombre del Parlamento marroquí, y estamos convencidos que ustedes van a desempeñar este papel pionero y de liderazgo a nivel de África. Queridos hermanos, distinguidos presidentes de la Cámara de Consejeros, señor Mellara, me alegra ver el papel importante que están desempeñando, un papel eficiente, eficaz, y siempre hemos sido alegres de colaborar y de obrar con líderes como ustedes, y pueden contar con nuestro apoyo a sus esfuerzos. Quisiera al final agradecer el resto de los colegas presentes y a su cabeza el presidente Arnubo. Muchas gracias, señoras y señores, por su escucha.
Thank you, Mr. President. And I have the pleasure now.
Muchas gracias, señor presidente. Ahora doy la palabra a nuestro colega, el honorable presidente del Parlamento de la Asamblea Parlamentaria del Mediterráneo.
Excellences, distingués invités,
Excelencias,
je tiens à remercier le Royaume du Maroc et
distinguished representatives, I would like to thank the Kingdom of Morocco and His Excellency Khanouch, head of the Moroccan government, and Speaker of the House of Councillors for the generous hospitality and the excellent organization of this forum. I would like also to thank my dear friend General Mignone, the emeritus president of the Mediterranean, the Assembly for the Parliamentary Assembly for the Mediterranean, for thinking about organizing this forum. I would like also to thank the Speaker of the Constitutive Council of Saudi Arabia, His Excellency Abdullah ibn Muhammad al-Sheikh, and the delegations of participating delegations who are taking part in this for the first time in this PAM meeting to take part in this conference.
With the countries of the Council of Cooperation for the Gulf. Ladies and gentlemen, today we have the opportunity, a historical opportunity, because never before such a forum has been organized. We have brought together governments, parliamentarians, representatives from the business world, academics, and members of the civil society to take forward a simple and forceful idea, notably the creation of an economic and energy community between the different nations of the Euromed and the Gulf. We are from different countries that have a lot to learn from one another. For a number of years, we were told that it was only a set of rules that should be applied in every part of the world and that should lead us to growth and economic prosperity. However, recent experience shows the opposite. 2 years of pandemic and now the Russian invasion of Ukraine have taught us that if the old paradigm of economic growth has become obsolete. We have new challenges, notably climatic change and disturbances of the economic chain and the economic growth in the world. To face such challenges, we not only need new solutions and updates, but we also need a change of paradigm. We have to rethink the ancient economic models that are not able to face the new economic changes, such as, for instance, the environmental changes, social challenges, the fourth economic industrial revolution through digitalization. For these very reasons, we are together here today. We have to rethink our perspective within the context of Euromed and the Gulf. We need to find new solutions that have been planified and adapted to the new needs of the world. This should include all the specific needs of our regions that are so very different now that globalization has been challenged. The creation of such an economic area in our region is an objective that is very ambitious, but I think sincerely that is the only solution taking into account the current challenges such as the strengthening of regional exchanges, the adaptation of infrastructures, and the support to our medium and small companies. Let me add that such a proposal of a community for the Euromed and Gulf region will not be competition, but that it will be in cohesion with international organizations. The strengthening of our economic regional relations is beneficial to strengthen our multilateral links with our counterparts. It is essential that our economic structures should take into account the Euromed region and the Gulf. We have just seen the catastrophic effects of the war in Ukraine that has once again shown us how fragile our energy system is. In our regions, we have tools and resources to face these challenges, but therefore we have to act collectively and deploy all our efforts towards a more integrated energy community that makes it possible to increase our resilience and our independence as compared to hostile effects from abroad. We are very much aware that today we have set a clear and ambitious objective, notably a difficult task, but the challenges that we are facing are difficult also. However, I believe that today we have an opportunity, a unique opportunity, to set the basis for a more integrated economic community that is more sustainable for our region. As decision makers, we have the duty and the responsibility to be successful in this objective. I wish you a successful conference. Thank you.
And now I have the pleasure to call on the podium Honorable Gennaro Migliore, PAM President Emeritus, and the member of PAM who is really behind this initiative. Thank you.
Thanks, Sergio. Excellencies, distinguished guests, dear colleagues, let me start by thanking the King of Morocco, His Majesty Mohammed VI, the Kingdom of Morocco, in particular the head of government, the President of House of Representatives, and especially the President of the House of Councillors, His Excellency Hinam Mayara, for making this possible. I also wish to thank the President and my friend Pedro Roque for his introduction and for his long-time engagement in PAM. It's a great pleasure and honor to be here in front of you and finally see the realization of all the efforts made to organize this important event. Dear colleagues, we imagined this event with Manuela Rafaiani, that is here, and the Secretary General Sergio Piazzi. And we meet in Madrid with His Excellency President Mayara, and it was enough only 2 words, but a great ambition to have this kind of event, this incredible event in our PAM history. At the epoca, we had just known the disastrous COVID pandemic, but we could not imagine that we are close to a war, a systemic war. The illegal Russian invasion of Ukraine has presented us with unprecedented challenges, destabilizing the geopolitical and economic scenario at a regional and global level. We can say that we are facing a new phase of the globalization, the so-called, as my friend, the President Aboulenein said, a regional globalization. Beside major security threats, the disruption caused by war have caused a significant shortage of food and energy supplies within the PAM countries, all in the midst of the unfolding of the current climate emergency. Today's challenges are compelling us to adapt our way of living to strengthen resilience in face of a new world order. This is why we consider the key word of this event security. Declined in many respects, not only security against anything malicious, but security for something better, security for the people, security for the energy, security for the food. In this regard, I encourage you to consider the current state of affairs, as we heard all in the previous intervention, as an opportunity rather than a defeat, a catalyst for positive changes. Morocco is protagonist of this change. And let me say, now even in football, but you know, all of Africa will be the protagonist of this change. Being able to have here, in addition to the many Mediterranean and Gulf authorities, also authoritative representation of Africa organization, Pan-African organization, is a privilege and an extraordinary opportunity, and we are in the gate of Africa. The Mediterranean basin is blessed by vast potential in terms of economic and energy resources, especially renewable energies. The rapid transition to green energy has become a top priority in the international agenda, whose benefits would mitigate both the energy and climate crisis. Relying on political willingness and concerned decision, the countries of Euro-Mediterranean and Gulf regions can have their energy system using domestic and sustainable sources. This can lead to a new regional economic resilience, as said by President Roque, that comes through greater energy security, robust economic diversification, and a low-carbon development model. What I am describing does not belong to the distant future. I am pleased to see that is the direction PAM is heading. More than ever, our Assembly is committed to increasing our regional independence and resilience by fostering the creation, as you all heard, of economic and energy community among the countries of the Euro-Mediterranean and Gulf. Today, the active participation of so many delegations is a symbolic but also concrete step towards the achievement of policy instruments and concrete strategies to reach common objectives in our PAM area. We believe in parliamentary diplomacy. We believe in multilateral approach to solving problems. A great personality, let me conclude with this sentence from my country, Don Lorenzo Milani said, "I have learned that the problem of others is the same as mine. To face it together is politics. To face it alone is avarice." Once again, I thank you for your commitment towards this goal, and I am confident that the economic community of the Euro-Mediterranean and Gulf will soon be a tangible and effective reality. Ce n'est qu'un début. Shukran.
Thank you, President Migliore. I have the pleasure now to give the floor to the President of the Arab Parliament, His Excellency Honorable Abdel Abdulrahman Al-Assoumi.
Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim.
In the name of God the Benevolent, I'd like to congratulate the Moroccan team who for such a wonderful game. It's a great honor for Africans and Arabs. Dear Excellency, Speaker of the Assembly of Councillors, Excellencies, representatives of the Mediterranean area, ladies and gentlemen. It's a great pleasure to express my happiness to take part in this assembly, and I would like to thank His Excellency Naam Mayara, the Speaker of the House of Councillors, His Excellency the Rug of the Mediterranean Parliaments, for inviting me to attend this meeting. At the same time, I would like to support the efforts of the Kingdom of Morocco under the leadership of His Majesty King Mohammed VI. May he protect him for the efforts that they undertake to bring together nations and cultures around the Mediterranean, and the initiative of this meeting, which we would like to see an opportunity to support cooperation between the Gulf, the Mediterranean, and around the Mediterranean for better partnership and cooperation between the various partners. Ladies and gentlemen, this forum is organized at an important time with many challenges in the Arab region and the Mediterranean, which shows that cooperation, institutional cooperation, is important to solve the problems that we are facing. As soon as Corona challenge was over, the crisis launched by the war of Russia and Ukraine has started a new unprecedented crisis, in addition to further challenges, environmental, water resources, and climate changes that impact all our lives. Unfortunately, the efforts are not going to be limited to the efforts of the governments, but also should be undertaken by parliaments like us around the Mediterranean and the Arab world to play our vital role by developing instruments of cooperation, and hence the importance of this today's meeting, which is going to look into all these challenges and problems. I'm sure you agree with me that reinforcing cooperation in trade exchanges between the Arab world and the Mediterranean necessitates launching vast projects in this area for better economic development and achieving the development objectives of our peoples. We need in this institution to support a Mediterranean diplomacy on the so that it may be a basic instrument for our cooperation. Ladies and gentlemen, the Arab Parliament is keen on bringing together the peoples of the Mediterranean and the Arab peoples based on historical ties, culturally, historically, and civilizationally. And I'm sure that this forum, which brings together a branch of academics, diplomats, and experts, will be working on our objectives by achieving a number of economic and developmental initiatives. Given that, it will be an important step towards economic zone which will be complementary between the Arab world and around the Mediterranean. And we hope that the parliamentary meetings that we are meeting together to achieve today will be able to convene annually and extend the geographical area to include all Arab countries. The Arab parliaments is honored to be part of this effort. Last but not least, I would like to thank again my friend, Excellency Mayara, for presiding the parliaments of the Mediterranean, and we are honored for reinforcing our actions, and I hope that this forum will achieve our common objectives. Thank you very much. Thank you for your attention.
Thank you, Mr. President. Now I have the pleasure to welcome a keynote address by Her Excellency Dr. Ngozi Okonjo-Iweala, the Director General of the World Trade Organization. The message is delivered by Dr. Said El Hashimi, great friend of PAM, member of our economic panel. And I wish to thank WTO as one of our key partners, and thanks to you, a number of our delegates are able to be here today. Thank you, Said.
Assalamu alaikum. Shukran.
Assalamu alaikum. Thank you, my friend Sergio. I am honored to be in my country, Morocco, and take part in this forum with my friend Edwin Nkesi from the World Trade Organization, and to be represent Dr. Ngozi Okonjo-Iweala, Director General of World Trade Organization, who have not been able to attend this meeting, but wanted to take part and support this meeting in Marrakesh. At the beginning, I'd like to say sorry for my voice, as I have just arrived from Switzerland. I just had time to watch the football match that we all enjoyed yesterday, and symbolized more than football. And Ames had gave us tremendous. I'm now going to read.
De l'Organisation mondiale du commerce.
Excellency, Mr. Enam Mayera, President of the House of Consuls of Kingdom of Morocco, Your Excellency Mustafa Baitas, Minister Delegate to the Head of Government in charge of relations with Parliament, Excellency, President of the Chamber of Representatives of the Kingdom of Morocco, the Emirates, Saudi Arabia and Qatar, Your Excellency Pedro Roque and Gennaro Migliore, President and Emeritus President of the Assembly of PAM, President of the President of the Arab Parliament, President of the Confederation of CGEM, Excellency Ambassador Sergio Piaggio, Honorable Presidents, Vice Presidents and Representatives of Member Parliaments of the PAM, Excellencies, representatives of international, regional, and national organizations, Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, good morning to you all. First of all, I would like to thank the Parliament of the Kingdom of Morocco and the Parliamentary Assembly of the Mediterranean that associate themselves to the World Trade Organization to host this regional meeting. I would also like to thank the authorities of the Kingdom of Morocco and the international and regional organizations and numerous eminent speakers who contribute to the debate that will be held over the next 2 days. The commitment of parliamentarians concerning international commerce is at the heart of our concerns. It is an important element, and we are an important partner in a strategic region for world trade. This is strengthened by this economic forum of the Euromed and Gulf Forum. WTO is associated with this initiative, and we are pleased with the initiative that has been launched. You will have the support of World Trade Organization. Such initiatives make it possible for WTO to give its version of facts, but also makes listen to you. This gives us regional perspectives that are the utmost importance for the global work of WTO. You are the main interlocutor between international organizations and the public in general. It is through parliamentarians that agreements negotiated by WTO become national legislation. Therefore, it is an honor to address you today concerning the situation at WTO. First of all, good news. In June this year, WTO held its 12th ministerial conference in Geneva. This conference was very successful. In the context of the results, we have obtained emergency results concerning the pandemic and food security. It has also been decided to maintain the practice of not imposing rates on electronic transfers. The members of WTO, after 21 years of negotiation, have reached a new agreement on subventions for fishing. It is a compulsory international agreement. We have agreements by consensus, and this new agreement is particularly important to show that multilateralism can have results. Numerous countries of the regions represented here have contributed constructively in order to reach such an important agreement. This agreement on subsidies for fisheries has been long overdue, and some surveys suggest that up to 50% of fisheries stocks have been overexploited. Subsidies have created an aggravating factor. Therefore, it is very important that we should give means of subsistence to fishers, to fishermen, and to guarantee the subsistence of millions of people. Subsidies are very important. They are a threat for our oceans and those who depend on it. The agreement forbids for the first time subsidies for illegal and undeclared and unregulated fisheries. And this, however, this agreement on fisheries subsidies will only be operational once it becomes into force. That means that 2/3 of the members of the WTO have to present instruments of approval to the organization. So I call on you all to accelerate the process so that the agreement can guarantee the sustainability of oceans as soon as possible. We also have committed ourselves to reorganize WTO negotiation, surveillance, and regulation, and solving difference. Rules are a necessity within the current context, but I would like to stress that despite the numerous difficulties, the WTO system has created good results. Let's look at COVID. There was a shortage of medical stocks, and we forget that trans-country have led to the manufacturing of masks and vaccines. They are created in supply chains that cover 19 countries on average. International trade is also necessary for countries where there's a lack of water and land. 1 calorie out of 5 in the world is the product of cross-frontier production. The trade has an important role for energy and food. Trade is also an essential element to ambitiously react to climate change. It is essential to disseminate green energy and reduce costs. Therefore, I would like to encourage you to consult our latest report on world trade that concentrates on international trade and climate change that was launched in November at the COP at Sharm el-Sheikh. 40% of the lowering of cost of solar panels has been achieved through international trade and value chains. Trade has brought solutions in the past, but we can do much more for global stability and peaceful trade. These challenges have caused reaction, notably the reshoring or friendshoring. The idea that you can outsource these chains of supply in your countries on friendly countries. We have to be confident but also vigilant, for a greater fragmentation would be economically costly for all the world economies. The economists of WTO consider that the GDP in the long run would decrease by 5% if we fragment. This is worse than the damages caused by the financial crisis of 2008, and that means, and this is equal to the size of the economy of Japan. We can face the challenges that the economic system faces. We should encourage transparency and mitigate negative results. We have to encourage better integration by formulating new rules for digital trade, by integrating micro companies and women. We can profit from the trade to create more jobs and a greener economy. This may seem impossible, but the second ministerial conference in June shows that if political goodwill is available, members of WTO can overcome the geopolitical differences and obtain important results. I would like to count on your role as legislators in your domain and in order to strengthen the efforts and continue the dialogue with the WTO concerning the challenges we face. WTO supports the forum by creating a strategic forum between the Mediterranean and the Gulf countries. We have a very important partnership with PAM, and we want to institutionalize this because this will have the full support of WTO. Thank you for your attention.
Merci, Said. Thank you. Shukran Jasila. You have heard today speaking, for those who are not familiar with the PAM, Mediterranean and Gulf. This is a binomium which is very, very strong. And the first country of the Gulf which started working with the PAM at a number of key issues are the United Arab Emirates. Already in 2009, a PAM president visited Dubai and Abu Dhabi to start looking at opportunity of cooperation, and it was in the framework of the AD. And then the relation has been nourished and led. United Arab Emirates is the country who opened the door to PAM in the Gulf. For this reason, it's a great pleasure for me to invite to the podium His Excellency Sakr Gobash, the Speaker of the Federal National Council of the United Arab Emirates. Excellency.
In the name of God, most gracious, most merciful, may peace and blessings be upon Prophet Muhammad, his kith and kin, distinguished Brother Nam Mayara, Speaker of the House of Councillors in the Kingdom of Morocco, and Speaker of the National Councils of Shura and Parliament Councils in the Arab world, Excellency Mr. Mustafa Baitas, Minister Delegate to the Head of Government in charge of relations with the Parliament, representative of the Head of the Government, distinguished Deputy Speaker of the House of Representatives, the Kingdom of Morocco, Mr. Antonio Pedro Roque, Speaker of the Mediterranean Parliament, distinguished Dr. Sheikh Abdullah bin Ibrahim Al Sheikh, Speaker of the Shura Council in Saudi Arabia, Your Excellencies, Speakers and Presidents, Directors Generals of organizations and parliaments, ladies and gentlemen, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah. First of all, I would like to extend to the sister nation, the Kingdom of Morocco, its king, governments and people, our warmest congratulations on the win by the Moroccan team and their qualifying to the quarterfinal of the Qatar 22 World Cup. And we wish, or we hope them the best to continue their successes in this international tournament, especially that they are the only representatives of the Arab world and Africa in this World Cup. Distinguished participants, it is a great pleasure to be among my kith and kin in my second home, the Kingdom of Morocco, and to take part in the proceedings of this forum, which is convened at a time when we need more than ever to build bridges, to consult each other regarding a number of issues relating to the interests and of our people, and also the needs of our people and the issues, to tackle the issues that we are faced with in our regions. I would like to extend my sincere thanks to the sister nation, the Kingdom of Morocco, for the warm welcome and generous hospitality extended to us, and to also the House of Councillors and the PAM for the excellent organization and for choosing such topical issues that are important and that are directly related to the stability and prosperity and security and peaceful coexistence in our countries. Distinguished participants, Your Excellencies, I would like, first of all, to insist on three major factors that are pillars of what we are yearning for in terms of joint action and what we seek to achieve regarding the outcomes of this forum. First, the Arab, Gulf, Mediterranean regions are steeped in history. They involve social, cultural, and faith-related and economic factors that we have inherited from the past and that have grown recently And one of the examples for this is the strategic partnership document for Europe and the Gulf that was adopted by the European Parliament, and that was adopted in May 2022. And we hope that it will pave the way for a European and a broader European and Arab partnership. Today, the crises we are facing have to be taken into account, including climate change. Climate change does not affect one region but not the others, although there is a differentiated impact from one region to another. And regardless of the causes of conflicts will remain, just as the case with climate change, and they have an impact, a direct impact on security and stability in the world, and also on energy supplies and the safety of maritime routes, for instance. Third, by addressing the crises and challenges we face and that have a direct bearing on our peoples and the stability of our countries, call for a multifaceted approach. Therefore, to address the question of terrorism, for example, calls for joint action to dry up the sources and origins of terrorism and of armed groups and militias that are transboundary phenomena. We also need to promote the tolerance-based culture, which is the key pillar for the promotion of stability and peace, and also need to work and help the poorer countries to make sure that they can also progress and achieve developments. Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, in this regard, I would like to insist on the role played by the United Arab Kingdom at a regional and international level regarding a number of issues that will be addressed by this respected forum. The United Arab Emirates adopted the document on coexistence and tolerance between all peoples and faiths in the world. The United Arab Emirates also was a pioneer in adopting the national plan on climate change 2050 and the energy strategy, and the investments in this regard concern 600 billion dirhams, UAE dirhams. And the aim is to make sure that we answer the needs of sustainable development and at the same time preserve the environment for future generations. On the other hand, at international level, the State of the United Arab Emirates has spent more than $50 billion in renewable energy in 70 countries, and it intends to invest tens of billions of dollars over the next decade. The United Arab Emirates has also launched a number of national strategies and initiatives that serve these outcomes, including the national strategy for the empowerment of women 2015-2021, and the strategy for 2021-2027, and also the law on equal pay between men and women, and also gender equality for by the year 2026. One of the achievements in this regard is to make sure that women benefit from these projects on a gender equality basis. As we have pointed out in the conference that was recently held in Jakarta, Indonesia, we seek to develop a parliamentary roadmap to bring together or to pool the regional and international efforts in order to address the issues that threaten the stability of current and future generations, including the challenges relating to the economic and political sectors, climate change, food security, and energy transition, especially clean energy, and also closing the gap between the developed countries and developing countries in technology, especially space technology. In this regard, I would like to point out that as members of parliament and representatives of our countries, we look forward to develop the legislative frameworks in our countries and to live up to what is expected at regional and international levels, and also coordinate and our concerted action and address the issues we are faced with at international level, especially revisiting legislation and to address the regional and international challenges to promote tolerance, achieve and promote peace and stability in the world, and address the number of phenomena that threaten our countries and our societies. I would like once again to express my thanks and appreciation to the Kingdom of Morocco for the generous hospitality extended to us. And I would like to also reiterate my thanks to the House of the Councillors and the Parliamentary Assembly of the Mediterranean for holding this forum. And we look forward to positive outcomes, and we are, especially that our countries and governments are yearning for such outcomes. Thank you so much for your kind attention.
President Gobash. President Gobash, I apologize because before I forgot to mention that the United Arab Emirates, the Federal Council, is the first country of the GCC which hosted the PAM plenary session last year. And I wish to thank you for that once again, because in Europe, because of COVID, it was not possible. And at the last moment, thanks to President Gobash, that was possible. Thank you again, President. Now, I have the pleasure to give the floor to Her Excellency, Honorable Madam the President of the Senate of the Republic of Zimbabwe and Chairperson of the African Parliamentary Union. Madam.
The Master of Ceremonies, Ambassador Sergio Piaz, Your Excellency, Honorable Inam Mayara, President of the House of Councillors of the Kingdom of Morocco, Honorable Antonio Pedro Roque, President of the Parliamentary Assembly of the Mediterranean, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, it is with real pleasure that I received the invitation from the President of the House of Councillors of the Kingdom of Morocco, the Honorable Enam Mayara, to take part in the Euro-Mediterranean and Gulf Economic Forum, organized in partnership with the Parliamentary Assembly of the Mediterranean in this beautiful and picturesque city of Marrakesh. I would like, on behalf of the African Parliamentary Union and on my own behalf, to express my gratitude towards the Moroccan authorities for the arrangements they have made to make our stay memorable and pleasant. I am grateful to the Moroccan people for the hospitality extended to my delegation and myself since we arrived in this beautiful country, Morocco. I would also like to express my sincere thanks to the Parliamentary Assembly of the Mediterranean for its action aimed at bringing Euro-Mediterranean and African parliaments closer. Honorable Presidents, distinguished delegates, ladies and gentlemen, promoting economic cooperation between Europe and the countries of the Mediterranean and the Gulf is a welcome initiative. It becomes more relevant during these trying times when the world is experiencing shifting balances in various fields such as global peace, health, food, climate, and water, all of which constitute the main concerns of the populations of our respective countries. Due to the complexity of the challenges and their global dimensions, only concerted responses can enable them to be tackled. No country can meet these challenges alone. This analysis further convinces us of the need to coordinate our actions, to pull our efforts together, and therefore, this makes any initiative taken in this direction relevant. This is why the strengthening of international cooperation, its extension to partners sharing the same values of democracy, peace, freedom, human rights, and sustainable development is of obvious relevance. Honorable Presidents, distinguished delegates, ladies and gentlemen, the African Parliamentary Union, which I represent, brings together most African parliaments and aims to be the ideal framework for African parliamentary cooperation and dialogue. It works for strengthening democracy in Africa, consolidating peace and security, defending human rights, gender equality, justice, and development. It remains open to any dynamic initiative towards the strengthening of international parliamentary action. This forum is being held at a crucial moment in the history of humanity, which has just emerged from a pandemic whose consequences are still profound and sometimes irremediable. It takes place at a time when some believe that we are on the verge of a third world war with the Russian-Ukrainian conflict raging on. Finally, it takes place at a time when human activity is causing extreme, unprecedented climate change with grave consequences. In such a context, made up of fear, threats, and questions of all kinds, the best weapon lies in the strengthening of international cooperation so that together we can do what no country can individually do. That is why this meeting is relevant and justified, because it allows deepening reflection in order to assess the opportunities and complementarities imposed on us by the current context. Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, despite the situation that we find ourselves in, we must remain hopeful and believe in a better, greener, more resilient, more prosperous world. At this level, we should welcome the agreement reached in Sharm el-Sheikh during this recent climate conference concerning the creation of a support fund for the most vulnerable countries facing climate change. Hoping that this fund will be set up and endowed with substantial resources. We believe that this is an important step towards the climate justice that we are calling for. Allow me to share with you some strong convictions to illustrate the importance of having an expanded parliamentary framework for dialogue, consultation, sharing our best practices and our experiences, a framework that matches our ambitions. The war in Ukraine reminded us as Africa that we have the imperative duty to ensure our food autonomy and that we must first consume what we produce and produce what we consume. As for global warming, the biggest polluters must be the biggest contributors in the search for a lasting solution to this phenomenon. Today, the countries of the South are paying the heaviest prices, and it has been proven that the acceleration of migration, the intensification of community conflicts, the recruitment of terrorists are largely the consequences of global warming, which is essentially caused by the countries of the North. With regards to the energy transition, it remains clear that our countries must use the resources available to ensure access to electricity for all. On a different level, we believe that migration is a phenomenon as old as the world, and that the migrants will seek better living conditions elsewhere. One of the possible solutions to curb this problem is in job creation and the promotion of development in the countries from which the migrants originate. Mass expulsions, the construction of walls, the separation of families, all out detentions cannot constitute lasting solutions to this migration crisis. Finally, with regard to the terrorism, which is hardest on many African countries, we must be convinced that it has neither religion nor a border, and that a global response is necessary to overcome this scourge. Only broad and strong parliamentary cooperation, genuinely implemented, can serve as a framework for these visions. The similarity of the challenges our different countries are facing requires the setting up of a broad front to achieve our common convictions. Honorable speakers, distinguished delegates, ladies and gentlemen, I hope that our exchanges will lead to fruitful conclusions capable of strengthening our faith in a better future for the people of the regions we represent. It is on this note of hope that I would like to end my remarks by reiterating my thanks to the Moroccan authorities and to all those who have contributed to the good organization of this forum. I thank you.
I have now the pleasure to welcome the keynote address by His Excellency Hassan Abdullah Al Ghanim, Speaker of the Shura Council of Qatar, delivered by Honorable Abdullah Nasser Al Subay, Head of the Qatari delegation to PAM. And I would like to mention the great friendship and support that Honorable Al-Subay gave to PAM, and thanks to him, we are proceeding faster with the issuing of the laissez-passer, the red laissez-passer for PAM delegates, and also to announce, and I wish to thank the kind hospitality of the Shura Council of Qatar, which will host the PAM plenary session in 2024. Thank you very much. Shukran.
In the name of God, most gracious, most merciful, may peace and blessings be upon the Prophet Muhammad, his kith and kin. First of all, I would like to extend my warmest congratulations to the Kingdom of Morocco, its king, people, and government on the historic win of the Moroccan team, football team, at the World Cup. Yesterday, now they have qualified to the quarterfinals, which is hosted by my country, and so proudly so. I wish also better luck to the Spanish side in the future tournaments and competitions, and I also congratulate all the other national teams that have qualified. Distinguished Speaker of the House of Councillors in the Kingdom of Morocco, distinguished Speaker of the Parliaments of the Mediterranean, Parliaments in the Mediterranean region, distinguished representatives and members of the participating delegations, ladies and gentlemen, Assalamu alaikum, may peace be upon you all. It is an honor for me to take the floor before this first international forum, which is organized by the House of Councillors and the PAM, and I'd like to convey the greetings of Mr. Hassan bin Ghanem, the Speaker of the Parliament in my country, to achieve its expected outcomes. Distinguished ladies and gentlemen, I come directly from the capital state of Qatar, Doha, which is hosting today an exceptional sports event which is attended by hundreds of thousands of fans and players from around the world, and they have all confirmed the successful organization of World Cup Qatar 2022. And to provide all the necessary conditions for a good stay in Qatar. You have all of you seen the opening ceremony of Qatar 22 World Cup, and you have also followed the remarks made by His Highness Sheikh bin Tamim bin Hamad, the head of state of the state of Qatar, who insisted on tolerance, on bringing countries and peoples together so as to promote peace in the world. And before the end of even before the end of the World Cup, we can already say that thanks to God and the good policy of His Highness, we have managed to organize the best competition in the world. This is the first environment-friendly World Cup that has also contributed to reducing the harmful impacts on the environment. Reduce also the GHG emissions, distinguished participants. The government of the state of Qatar has introduced a number of legislative and legal reforms which aim to promote human rights and also improve living and working conditions for nationals and foreigners foreign residents in Qatar. Qatar has adopted the minimum wage to be paid in the state of Qatar, and we have also introduced a number of changes to the health-related issues and also the rights of migrants, and hundreds of thousands of workers, foreign workers in Qatar have benefited from this. The ILO has congratulated us for these steps, and they have considered these as major achievements and benefits for the foreign workers. And the state of and government of Qatar is continuing to work with ILO in order to introduce more reforms in line with the regulations and laws in force in the country. Ladies and gentlemen, the government of the state of Qatar, in line with the instructions of the head of state, have taken a number of measures to empower women and youth, and also to open the way for women to contribute alongside men in the development of the country and its progress. The state has come up with significant funds to promote education and teaching, and also to ensure health coverage at external level. The state has also adopted a policy that promotes peace, global peace and security, and cooperation with all states, and also to refrain from interference in the internal affairs of states, and also to solve problems through dialogue and consultation. The United Nations has applauded the measures and initiatives taken by Qatar to promote peaceful conflict resolution, and also to work and assist needy countries. And in this regard, Qatar will host in March 2023 the United Nations Conference on the least developed countries in the world. Distinguished participants, I would like to extend my sincere thanks to the House of Councillors of the Kingdom of Morocco and the Parliament of the Mediterranean Parliament for this very good organization of this economic forum. And I would also like to thank them for the generous hospitality extended to us. And I wish you a very successful conference and also good outcomes that are supported by our governments. Thank you very much.
I have now the pleasure to call to the podium a speaker, a delegate, which need no introduction. For those of you who are familiar with the PAM, he is part of the history of PAM, not the past, the future. I have the pleasure to call to the podium Honorable Abulanin Mohammed, who is the Deputy Speaker of the Egyptian House of Representatives, is PAM President Emeritus, and is also the PAM Ambassador to the League of Arab States. He is very... Mohammed.
In the name of God, most gracious, most merciful, warm greetings from Egypt and from the members of Parliament of Egypt, and congratulations to the Moroccan people who are steeped in history, to the Moroccan government, king, and people for yesterday's win. And we send you our best wishes for tomorrow and the days to come to achieve even more victories. Truly, to see the smiles on the faces of all Arabs, this smile comes from the bottom of the heart after waiting for such a long time and following the spring revolutions in a number of countries. And by the grace of the Almighty, this smile comes from the efforts of the Kingdom of Morocco, and while we're here in the Kingdom of Morocco. Today, as we meet, thanks to a commendable initiative by Brother Migliore Gennari, who made this proposal to hold this first economic forum, parliamentary forum, and it has been held here in Marrakesh. And we can see in the current intricate, complex circumstances that no one that is in the world knows exactly where it will be taking us. These circumstances that we're talking about today, I would like to keeping in mind those circumstances, I would like to thank him for his initiative, and also to commend and thank the brother and friend Nam Mayara, Speaker of the House of Councillors, and also to extend a warm welcome to all the brothers and sisters, and especially the Sakr Ghabashi and all participants, be they ministers, representatives of parliaments, speakers, and international organizations. As you know, we are facing a major challenge, a challenge that I myself have, about which I'm wondering when we go back to our countries and when they ask us, when our colleagues, our members of parliament ask us, what have you come up with? What have you achieved as far as this forum is concerned? And they are suffering. They are suffering from inflation. They're suffering from skyrocketing prices, problems with supply chains, and they have problems with energy prices. They are still suffering from the impacts and repercussions of the COVID-19. So I had the honor of being a founding member of this assembly more than 15 years ago. We talked about the dream of achieving the real cooperation between the two shores of the Mediterranean, and when I was listening to the heads of states, that when they talked that the future of the North is in the South and the future of the South is in the North. That was the general landscape. That was the general motto that brought us together. But I am still wondering, this happened some 30 years ago. What have we achieved? What were the hopes? And why certain things were not achieved? These are the regions, these are the questions that we have to ask. Sorry, we had dreams, but some of them have not been achieved. Now we have a very complex crisis. And if we were to stop at all the proposals and all the requests that we submitted in the past, if they had been properly addressed, we would not have been in such a situation. You know that the South has resources, has potential, has skills, and we have to leverage those. Now is the time to do that. And you know that your forum today is different from all other conferences. We are celebrating a complementarity of a different nature that brings together the Asian, the African, and the European continents. This means that there is a new meaning, and there are now expectations to reconsider our methodologies, to reconsider our priorities. This should not be just speeches. This should not be limited to just speeches. We have to draw lessons from what happened in the past. And if we were to go through what was achieved and the dreams that we had, you will see the gap. In the Sharm el-Sheikh conference, which was attended by 153 countries, Egypt came up with an agenda for the discussion, and it talked about some necessities that had to be lived up to by the conference. And one of them, or the most important one, was to put the problems in their right context and to hold accountable all those that were concerned and involved in their sectors. The motto at Sharm el-Sheikh is that this is an implementation summit, and indeed it was an implementation summit. And one of its top priorities was to take into consideration the needs of developing countries and the resources that they were entitled to. The conference was successful because it came up with this fund, and it looked at the damage and the losses, so that everyone could see their rights upheld. And we decided who should be paying what and who should be the beneficiaries. It was a successful conference, and people felt really what was at stake, what the problems involved were. This was a global conference that we wanted to draw lessons from. Just as this forum is important, and we have to draw lessons from it. So what is the future of partnership between the northern and southern shores of the Mediterranean, and also the Gulf states, and Africa? And as was pointed earlier, Africa is indeed the future, the continent of the future, the continent of the promising projects. And we in North Africa, we can be that link between Europe and Sub-Saharan Africa. This cannot be achieved unless we reconsider and revisit the strategy that we are trying to implement, so that we address the problems that I mentioned earlier. Why couldn't we achieve the objectives that we were yearning for, and what to do in the future? And one of the key elements here is the problems relating to funding. But funding is, of course, important and interesting, but we have to have political will that welcomes this partnership. We need to know and be convinced that the entire world is changing, and that the global economic map is changing, and that the geopolitical map is changing. So where do we stand? And this means that we have to revisit our syllabi, our curricula, our work methods, and our policies. Africa is the continent on which a lot of hopes are pinned. After 40 days ago, in 4 days, the U.S. president is going to invite all heads of state of Africa to come to the U.S. for a summit. In the past, recently, Saudi Arabia, in the past, China and Japan were talking about Africa. So where does Europe stand as far as Europe is concerned? How about the Euro-Mediterranean partnership? Where does it stand as far as the African continent is concerned? We should not just limit ourselves to slogans, empty slogans. We need to have a clear strategy with implementation mechanisms to which we all commit. We have to know what is the added value that we can bring. We have to ensure good marketing of this, and we have to make sure we bring on board the parliaments. So these are major objectives. Education is a goal. How can we develop education? Industry is another objective. How can we promote that? Agriculture as well, and so on. So all of these aspects of daily life must have specific programs with a specific role assignments. And the best proof to this is the Chinese experience in Africa, when China thought of coming up with the Silk Road Initiative. It devoted $1 trillion for the achievements of this objective, which concerns 68 countries from China up to Europe. So they have thought on how to ensure a presence, how to fund, and how to be in all of these markets and to achieve its objectives. These are the actual action plans, efficient action plans that we should derive inspiration from. There are funding institutions, financial institutions in Europe, major institutions in Europe. There are skills, there is expertise that we can leverage in order to come up with a new plan that we commit to, all of us. I don't want to take too much of your time, and there were a lot of people who took the floor before me, and we have to keep in mind what they said. And we want this, we really look forward to the actual implementation of promising, ambitious plan so as to build on the creative, innovative technological skills available and the human resources that exist both in the north and south of the Mediterranean. I want to also talk about a specific important question which concerns the opinions that we hear and the interference that exists in the internal affairs of some states. This is rejected. There is no country today that allows others to interfere in their internal affairs. This is one of the key reasons for the destruction that happened in Syria, in Libya, in Lebanon, and other countries, and which we see on a daily basis. We have to make sure that when we talk about human rights, we all support real human rights, and those who want to consider or to use human rights as a pretext to interfere with the internal affairs of countries, we have to make sure that they have no place among us. We have to ensure that human rights are not just accepting the viewpoints of others. Human rights is a full-fledged system, and Egypt has managed to present this in a strategic way before the eyes of the global community. And I want to confirm to you all that there are people who want to destroy things. They want to use fake news and also data that is doctored to introduce or to serve their objectives. I want to make sure that we reject such practices. We want to build. We want to be positive. We want to give our people the best living conditions possible. We want to work with you and through you so that in the future this conference be an implementation conference, that we do not lose sight of our priorities, to make sure that we keep in mind that we can be creative, we can innovate, we can show political will in order to build and to achieve a lot. Thank you so much.
Distinguished delegate, we are approaching the end of the opening session. We have the last two high-level speakers who will intervene now. And I would like to thank Honorable Boulanin, and we will listen to his comments again in the course of the sessions which will follow. Now I have the pleasure to welcome a keynote address by Mr. Shakib Al-Haj, the President of the General Confederation of Enterprises of Morocco, and the message is delivered by Mr. Mohammed Youssef Alawi, Vice President of the Confederation. Please.
بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم والصلاة والسلام على
In the name of the merciful, Mr. Speaker, Mr. President, Mr. Vice President of the Association of Mediterranean Parliamentarians, ladies and gentlemen, chairmen and chairwomen of commissions, in the name of the Confederation of Businesses in Morocco, whom I honored to represent today, I'd like to express our happiness to see this meeting convened in Morocco, and like to welcome all our friends who are taking part from various countries. I would like to thank especially the Association for Mediterranean Parliaments and the Moroccan Parliament to have organized this meeting, which convening parliamentarians and businesses alike, calling them to partner financially, economically between Mediterranean countries and the Gulf countries. In fact, if our region has enormous potential, it faces challenges that are growing, especially with changes in climate, environment, and the growing other economic problems. In order to change this challenge into opportunities, we need strong partnership, bilateral and multilateral, based on productivity, participation, and variation of the productive capacity of these countries in priority areas. Energy, especially, is a tremendous opportunity, especially as the Mediterranean Sea is one of the world areas that are mostly affected by environment change. And Morocco is one of the rare countries in North Africa that does not have oil and gas resources. And even so, Morocco is undertaking green energy choices. And from this perspective, we can work together and further towards better investments and assistance with international, European, and other energy enterprises, so as to secure objectives not only in industry but as well in food production. All this is necessary for specific areas like recycling of grey waters and agricultural practices. We need better adaptation, technological adaptation, with further dialogue between private and public sectors in order to free the capacities of all partners so as to make of our area real opportunity areas. As private sector, we are permanently in consultation with government relating to various projects, and especially the Royal project for investment projects for $500 million from now to 2026, and as a business syndicate, we are taking part in these projects and in order to make them a success. It's time to reshuffle our papers and make of our countries real area for trade and industrial expansion. Morocco is well situated. It is by Europe, and we are one of its largest partners, and we are areas that are doing our best in this area. We have opened recently an annex in Brussels to make of Morocco a successful area for expanding investments. Under the leadership of His Majesty King Mohammed VI, infrastructures have been improved to standard of the best global examples. In addition to strategies in various other areas, Morocco is implementing its new development projects, which makes Morocco ready to be part of global development and to give added values to our regional economies with more strength and adaptation. Our partners are key in this effort, and as African saying goes, if you want to go fast, go alone, but if you want to go further, go with partners. Thank you very much for your attention.
Thank you. We are coming to the conclusion of the high-level segment, and I have the pleasure to invite to the floor Mr. Chi-Yong-Zhu, Managing Director, the Director of Technical Cooperation and Sustainable Development of UNIDO. UNIDO, which is very close to my heart, because I started my career as a UNIDO GPO. Thank you. Thank you.
His Excellency Honorable Anam Mayara, President of the House of Councillors of the Kingdom of Morocco, His Excellency Honorable Mustafa Battas, Minister Delegate to the Head of Government of Morocco in charge of relations with the Parliament, His Excellency Honorable Mohammed Sabari, First Vice President of the House of Representatives of the Kingdom of Morocco, His Excellency Honorable Pedro Bouki, President of the Parliamentary Assembly of the Mediterranean, Excellencies, representatives of international organizations, parliament, assemblies, and private sectors, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen. At the outset, I would like to join the speakers before me in congratulating Moroccans on their national teams for great achievement in the FIFA's World Cup. All the best to the team's future games. It is an honor to address you today at the PAM Euro-Mediterranean Gulf Economic Forum on behalf of UNIDO. I strongly believe that forums like this with so many distinguished guests, experts, and representatives from Parliament and the government can provide solutions and frameworks to confront the challenges faced by this region and beyond, and pave the way for more prosperous and inclusive and sustainable tomorrow. But to achieve this, we need stronger multilateral cooperation. Cooperation is crucial, particularly in times when economic rivalry leads to isolationist tendencies. The Euro-Mediterranean is a prime example of the common interest in a common geographic area. Economic interest in the region goes far beyond economic blocks and the national boundaries, so cooperation is in the primary interest of everyone. Cooperation in sustainable development, science, technology, and innovation, and the nexus of that, the innovation, is highly topical and very timely. The themes for discussion of the next 2 days are no doubt important for the global community. But they have particular importance for UNIDO, as they reflect the strategic priorities set out by the Director General of UNIDO for the coming years. UNIDO supports progress by innovation, which stretches across all parts of thematic areas: food security, energy transition, the health sector, and particularly the digital transformation. All those areas need innovation to respond to the challenges of our time. I'm convinced that technology holds on the keys. Firstly, we must use technology to support economic growth. You would agree with me that over the past few years, frontier technologies have dramatically shifted the way we work, live, and communicate. It was emphasized even stronger by the pandemic. Imagine a world without digital connection today. We have learned the lessons that new tools can make us more resilient and also productive. We have achieved a level of interconnectedness and new forms of collaboration that were impossible a decade ago. And we have to ensure that more countries, more people, more SMEs reap the benefits of the technological and economic development. UNIDO supports the usage of frontier technologies such as artificial intelligence in manufacturing and considers the productive sector to be one of the major drivers of growth and revenue. New disciplines like data science are becoming mainstream rather than occupying niche they used to. There are many others that will soon become similarly widespread. The pace of innovation today is so fast that tasks which were unthinkable maybe a mere month ago are now the norm. At the same time, the SMEs, as the backbone of many economies across the globe, face their own challenges when it comes to digital transformation, technological upgrading, innovation, and accessing new markets. Openness and willingness to integrate new ways of thinking and doing business are important. At UNIDO, the SMEs are at the center of our technical cooperation work, where we support them in technological upgrading and modernization. Secondly, we must use technology for human development, for improving health and fighting the climate change. Innovation and technology have always been among the main drivers of human development. Economies have been defined by the technologies they brought forward, and those will be further accelerated in the future. UNIDO supports the adoption and dissemination of the most relevant technology for development. Attaining the 2030 Agenda and the Sustainable Development Goals will require new approaches to ensure that no one is left behind and that dangerous climate change is avoided. Therefore, we must use technology to build more inclusive, sustainable, and prosperous tomorrow. Technological foresight is important when it comes to planning technology rollout and adoption. Some technologies have very long cycles, which has an impact on the future of companies. Planning of the future is not always easy, but technology defines a way that could lead to prosperity, weighing options, ensuring openness, and being able to integrate into new markets or integrate new ideas into products being sold is critical to economic success, both at an individual but also at a collective level. The technologies we build today will define the development pathway of future generations. However, we must not forget about the potential and the current challenges in using the technology. We understand that without proper policy and adequate skills, those technologies can only exacerbate current inequality patterns within countries, across regions, and across the globe. The digital divide still presents several impediments. Skills are not evenly distributed between genders. Infrastructure is not accessible to everyone equally. And even more limiting is the unequal access to finance and technology. To face the challenges we see today, we need new models for innovation, collaboration, and thinking. Therefore, you need a cause for cooperation in tackling economic inequality, particularly pronounced in terms of access to technologies. You need to stand ready to forge partnerships for skill development, training, and an open innovation approach to allow the most advanced technology to reach everyone on the globe. This is the time to call for increased cooperation in technology exchange among countries to support the most climate-friendly development possible. Conferences like today can raise the awareness necessary to increase the needed cooperation. I strongly believe that together we are well equipped to tackle the challenges ahead and build a resilient, sustainable, and inclusive future. I'm looking forward to the discussions over the next 2 days and wish you success for this conference. Thank you. Shukran.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Mr. Zhu. Now we came to the end of this very successful session. And I would like to give you a couple of information. We will go outside for a family photo. After that, we will have a lunch. We reconvene in this room at 2 o'clock sharp. We have 2 substantive sessions. The first on the economic integration, the second on energy security, and we will start the session on economy with a video that Egypt has very kindly produced for our attention. Mr. President, thank you very much for the hospitality. Thank you to your delegates for attending the opening session.